Welcome to episode 12 of the Living Memory Association's Reminiscence YouTube videos. My name's Joyce, and today I'm going to be talking about youth organisations. Cubs, Scouts, Brownies, Guides and BBs, all of which were very popular with many ages of children from the beginning of the 20th century through to today. They're still in organisations and current today. What have we got here? We've got Brownie uniforms, we have Girl Guide uniforms, hence the colour, brown for Brownies, blue for Girl Guides. We've got Cub Scouts here, a nice little woolly jumper with various badges on it, which would be accompanied by the cap, the little green cap with the badge of the wolves at the front here, the Cubs. The organisation were based on Rudyard Kipling's Jungle Book, so we had the Cubs, the Akala being the leader, Baloo being one of the other leaders involved in that. You might remember having a cap like that if you were in the Cubs. And of course the Scouts, the senior branch, which times is a green shirt, sometimes it's beige shirt here. Associated is quite an old one. We have here the nice tie, which is held together by the toggle, the leather toggle being a very important part of the Scout uniform. And this one is particularly celebrating a 50th anniversary, 1907 to 1957. The other part would be, of course, this lanyard that went with the Scout uniform that went across here, and I'm not quite sure what it was for, but it was a very important part of the Scout uniform. The BBs were different. They tended to wear blue shirts or blue jumpers or blue jackets, and their hats were associated with this little pill box hat here with the company name at the front, Company 9, which is based on more of a military look. You might have had one like this. It's not what was used later on. It was replaced by this kind of flat type of cap that could be folded up and put across the shoulder. It's got more of an anchor shape, the BBs. And they also used lanyards, but they also had a thing called a haversack belt, which had a military ancestry. I guess it was more of a proper little sack originally, but this one's made here of a white cotton weave, and that would go around as a belt, and of course the lanyard as well. Do you remember being in the BBs or the Brownies or the Guides or the Cubs or the Scouts? When you were in the Brownies, you would have various badges, and most importantly was your company badge. And this one is the 186th City of Edinburgh. I was in the 138th City of Edinburgh Brownie pack and then Guide pack. It was the same company number, and that would go on your left shoulder. The other things you would have would be your Sixer badge. This is a nice Sixer badge here. I think this is an imp. Because of being Brownies, often the sixes were based on sort of little wee spirity figures like fairies and elves and kelpies, gilly-doos. We have an example of a kelpie badge here on this Guide Brownie badge. You can see the little red figure with the yellow hat. So that was your Sixer, your sixth rather. And the little badge down here was if you were a leader of the six. You got that as your show you'd been promoted to become the leader of the six. The Guides were a wee bit different. They tended to be, again, you had what was called a patrol, and you can see this badge here. This is a robin badge, and again we have a patrol leader's insignia here. Often Girl Guide patrols wear flowers or birds. So robins, nightingales, swallows were quite common, but you could also have daffodils, roses, Did you have a particular patrol that you were in? Can you remember the patrol that you were? I was in the Nightingales. I'm known for my great singing voice. The Cubs, they didn't have so much, well, they would have some equivalent sixes, but again, the Scouts, they had their patrols. There's no patrol badges here, but they tended to be quite butch, shall we say, so things like kestrels and ptarmigans, again birds, but quite, you might call them hunter birds. Kind of things you did in the Brownies, guides, BBs and so forth. It was often you would meet in a one night a week and go through certain activities to learn skills or to be inducted into the company. You had to pass certain tests. And we have here a number of certificates from BBs. And the first one I have here is a transfer certificate from an organisation called the Life Boys. The Life Boys were like the junior branch, and the uniform was very much like a wee sailor's uniform. And this was to certify that Jack Aitken passed from the Life Boys up to the Boys Brigade, the second Leith team. He's transferred to the second Leith Boys Brigade. And we've also got examples of him passing a physical training certificate. And here's one about life saving. So the kind of skills that you learned were often about physical ability, but also about helping in the community and helping people. And so, did you pass any tests like that? This one is a first aid certificate, a very good skill to have. And that would be the same for the other organisations as well. The guides and the Brownies had what we call activity badges. There's certain examples here on the sleeve. Not so many in this uniform here, but we've got a lot in this one here. And various skills would be necessary here. There would be nature, housework, physical activities, hockey, music, cooking, all very, very useful skills to have. Did you have any merit badges? The first one I got was called my hostess badge, which meant I learned how to serve a cup of tea and a scone. So one of the big things of being in any of these organisations was to learn new skills and abilities and be tested on them and get what would be called merit badges. And this little brownie here's got a lot of merit badges down her right arm. And we've got various things from nature to housekeeping to hostess to reader's badge to cooker's badge to geography. A great range of abilities, and you'd have to go through a particular test by an outside person to be awarded such a badge. And there's more examples coming down here as well on this badge here. And various activities. I think it was reflective of the need or the focus on becoming a good member of your community. And part of the thing was learning the rules and making a promise. And we have here a book here about the guide promise. And you would be, again, it was a test before you would be allowed to be a full member. You had to learn to recite a prayer, a promise. This involved putting your right hand up, three fingers up like that, and promising to do your duty and be good to people. The guide had certain more rules that you had to learn compared to the Brownies, and certain abilities about promising to do a good deed every day. The Cubs had a similar thing that they would say. I think they said it at the beginning of their meeting. It would be dib, 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 dob, dob, dob. So that was do your best, and the Cubs would reply, do our best. Do you remember saying that? Dib, 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 dob, dob, dob. If you were a Cub or if you were a Cub leader. When the Brownies started their meeting, the brown owl would shout out, "Are the Kelpies coming to powwow?" And the Kelpie 6 would reply, "Yes, the Kelpies are coming to powwow," and run across to the other side of the hall to join the brown owl. Tawny owl and snowy owl were the leaders of the Brownies. Were you ever a brown owl or a tawny owl? And lead the Brownies in their meetings. We have camping. That was a big activity for all of these organisations, particularly when they started up to and still go on camps, although tend maybe not to be under canvas so much now, but being under canvas was a big part of the summer months where you would go for a week's camp. Did you go on camp at all? Did you under canvas, or did you go to a hostel? At camp, the quartermaster was an important organiser of the food and catering facilities. So this, making sure everything was stored properly. You'd have to learn to put up tents. You'd have to, and it would be ground sheets, and then the tent and the pegs and the pulling it all together. It would be quite complicated, making sure it wasn't going to let in water. And then cooking over a campfire, making sure all the food was safely done, and also making sure the fire wasn't a risk. Very, very important. So this is the quartermaster's responsibilities. Did you ever go and guide camp or brownie camp or scout camp? So singing around the campfire, did you remember any songs that you sang around the campfire? The Quartermaster's Store was a very popular song. Campfires Burning, Land of the Kookaburra. These were all very an important part. There were rounds often. That was a big part of learning to sing. You took your parts. Great fun. And lots of games too. It wasn't always about being tested and being expected to learn rules and regulations. So lots of games, team games, working together as a group to enjoy yourself. So what have we got here? We've got, maybe there were things about learning alphabets or questioning or making up words. I like this idea of blindfold driving. That doesn't sound the safest of games, I have to say. Letter clumps, missing articles. Perhaps these are sort of slightly old-fashioned games, I would say. Newspaper fancy dress. We'll say the date of this one was 1923, so I think that's maybe quite old. The kind of games we played were Pelmanism, where you had to learn everything laid out, and oh no, that was picking up pairs, wasn't it? The other one was where you would come in and look at a tray with lots of objects, go out again, and you had to list all the objects you saw. That was quite a good one. Chinese Whispers, where you sat at one end and passed a secret to the other end, and it usually had changed quite a bit. Did you ever play any games if you were a member of these organisations? The other thing is you would entertain folk, fundraising, or just for your family and friends to come along. And we've got some programmes here. This is particularly from the Leith BBs. This was, I don't think it's got a date on it actually. It was a premiere presentation of Persevere, a pageant of Leith. So of course it was celebrating Leith as well as by the BBs. So we've got displays of Highland dancing and Morris dancing and harmonica harmonisation. So it was a very good thing to sort of share with your family and friends. So here's the date, 1938. So again, that's quite old, that programme here. But entertainment and taking part in group activities was a very important part of being in these youth organisations. I should also have pointed out the membership badges. So we've already said about the BBs being more of an anchor and shape as being kind of military. The guides had this sort of badge here with a GG on it. Nice little one. The Brownies one, the The badge here is a sort of silver version of the guide badge, but that has gone through a number of changes. Got a little brownie figure right in the centre, and in fact this tie is somewhat different. This is quite a modern one because it's got Velcro. I don't think you might have remembered that kind of brownie tie. It might be more like this one here. It's a bit of a plain one. This little booklet here, which is a sort of Sandra Bissett's 82nd pack of the things that she had to learn as she became a brownie, going from enrolment to second class to intermediate and then first class, and her way forward through to the guides. She would have to learn to do the composition of the Union Jack. She'd have to learn some knots and how their uses, learn how to cross a road safely, observe and describe something belonging to the outside world. When you move further, you had to know 15 letters of the alphabet in semaphore and be able to send and receive a message. Did you ever use semaphore, or learn semaphore rather? It's with the flags, and you would put one up and down and various letters would have different shapes. I'm not sure that many people would know how to do that today, but you maybe remember learning semaphore for your brownie test. So there's lots of things here that might prompt your memories that you might want to talk about, either as being a member of the youth organisation or maybe being a leader in the youth organisation. And they're still going on today, so it might be that you're visited by members of these groups and they come in to visit you, or you might want to, your grandchildren may be members of them, and you've got lots to talk about your memories. Thank you for listening to this 12th Reminiscence YouTube video from the Living Memory Association. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please do come and visit us in Ocean Terminal and you'll be able to see many of these objects and maybe they'll prompt your memories. If not, you can visit us, watch us on YouTube, or visit us at www.livingmemory.org.uk. Thank you.